Hello and welcome to another part of the video. I hope you'll enjoy listening to the story.
Leave it. Where's Moji? She questioned, her mouth still dry but her energy piercing the roof. Baba, she uttered firmly, after she had waited long enough for his reply. Come here, he said, placing a makeshift bookmark in between the pages. He realized that her tone suddenly turned blue. Inayat passively kissed his temple and wished him good morning. A smile gently converged on his cheek as he went back to reading again. She's in there, Makbul said, pointing towards the kitchen with his long nose as she walked, parts of her feet touching the cold wooden plank. The brass utensils were lined up on the shelves. A wide variety of spoons and forks rested on the steel glasses right next to the sink, the chopped onions and tomatoes placed by a sharp knife, and a pot on the stove. Her mother's obsessive compulsive disorder for cleanliness and orientation could be seen at every corner of the house. Don't drop the ash on the floor. Why is this book lying here? Inayat, clean your room. How many times I have told you to wash your hands when you come back home? She went on and on and on. Wahida spoke about it to an extent that Makbul and Inayat felt immune to her words, but some things has become the law of the land. A watching pot never boils, Inayat quipped. As Wahida turned, her wavy hair was still a bit wet and had left spots on her baby blue gown. A dimple sprang up on her cheek. On hearing the voice, she still smelled of the shampoo as Inayat hugged her. Wahida kissed her daughter on the cheek. Her lips were still dry in contrast to her eyes. The onions had made her cry. Her brown eyes reflected pure happiness even when she was crying, with her cheeks red because of the cold. Finally, the snowfall. Happy now? She said as her lips got back into their shape. Go brush your teeth before she comes. Did she call? Inayat asked, her eyebrows raised. No, the phone's dead, Wahida said. Then how do you know? She questioned. I just do, Wahida replied as she let go of the ladle. Inayat went out to the living room and sat next to her father, who was still reading the novel, listening to the songs as she tried to identify the singer. The golden ring shone as Makbul placed his right hand on the armrest of the chair. Baba, you never remove your ring? She asked, looking at the gold ring that he wore on the third finger of his right hand. She had noticed it all her life, 3 words inscribed on it in Urdu. He had told her a couple of times that it belonged to his grandfather, who passed it on to his father, and finally he had the honor of wearing it. Never, he said as he looked at her for a jiffy. She realized it was Muhammad Rafi when Wahida called out to tell them that the food was ready. The 3 of them sat at the dining table and started eating the harissa. The white tablecloth, Inayat realized, had now become pale, and the glass Makbul was drinking had yellow marks in his fingers on it now. The radio was still buzzing, but now with the local news, it was not far away, and they could still hear bits and pieces of what the reporter was saying. Inayat dug her bare fingers into the food, ignoring the news, the tender meat breaking off into pieces as she played with the food. Her father started talking about a new book that he was publishing while her mother was still quiet. All the talking seems indifferent to her. Their conversation was a constant murmur to her in the background, nothing more. She was a tourist like any other teenager. She was not interested in the talk. She was waiting for a knock on the door for her parents to come and drag her out into the snow. Inayak, Matbul called out as he watched her looking over his shoulder intermittently, his glass half empty now as he was starting to feel the intoxication. Yes, Baba, she replied, her mouth still stuffed with the tender meat. There was silence for a while, and she turned her gaze into the plate. Finish the food, only then you can go, Makbul said. She stared at his finger. His ring was now submerged into the yellowness of the meat and the rice. She finished a bit, and when Wahida offered her more, she refused. Inayat, a voice called out for her as she washed her hands, her mother pouring water from the rusted jug. Gul stood there, peeking inside from the window next to the door, and Aqib's curls were the only thing visible. Moji, can I go? She asked, and without waiting for the answer, made her way towards the shoe rack. As she wiped her hands with the small towel, she picked up her shoes and sat on the small stool. As if you won't if I say no, she smiled as Inayat tied the laces of her pink shoes that Rasul had gifted her on her 17th birthday last year. Inayat, her mother called out as she took off her husband's muffler. Slowly, she rolled it around Inayat's neck and fiddled with it. Looking into her eyes, her father smiled from a distance. Now, you are good to go. She pushed the door open and it made a cracking sound before it finally opened up and Inayat ran out into the white. And there it was, soft, fresh snow all around. A cool breeze swept past her face as she saw them. The 18-year-old boy wearing woolen gloves and a skinny girl with a bobble cap covering her straight, flawless hair, which otherwise kissed her lower back and had never faced a scissor. She had been in the company of Gul and Aqib for as long as she could remember. Gul lived across the street, her house facing Inayat's, and Aqib lived barely 50 feet away from their houses. He was a year older than both of them, but the three of them studied in the same class. Want some? Gul asked, holding out a paper cup in which she savored her cinnamon-flavored homemade ice cream. You made just one? Inayat asked. That's all I could manage for now. It's not like the snow is gonna stop, she replied. It's going to be here, sighed. How I wish it would stay forever, Inayat said as she bit into the ice cream. So when are we building the snowman? Aqib asked, breaking the long silence. Today, Gul said, as she slurped the ice cream that was back in her hand again. Let's do it now. What else do we have to kill time anyway? He said with a sense of urgency. Okay, let's do it, Inayat said as she watched her words turn into vapors that disappeared into the thin air. They walked into her backyard, pressing the soft snow into the ground, bypassing Makbul's Fiat that was buried under 2 feet of snow. Aqib took off his gloves and put them into the pocket of his jacket, closing the bottoms with care. They gathered the snow and rolled it up to form one huge chunk, and slowly they started assembling the snowman. Everything had to be perfect. Every cut had to be precise and everything well defined. They were designing something that will stand for the next 3 or 4 months. It had to be impeccable. Not bad at all, Gul said, looking at the incomplete structure with her hands on her waist. It's already better than the one Akwe built last year, Inayat said. Oh, come on. I had to do it all alone, he bantered as the girls giggled. They pressed their eyes together as firmly as they could, placing the round white head over the round white body of the structure. Inayat get the carrot, we'll get the sticks, Aquip spoke, breathing heavily in his asthmatic tone. When the body and the head were done, Gul went off to gather the sticks for his arms along with Aquip, while Inayat watched them smile and leave. Inayat saw the same peculiar smile on Gul's face. She always seems ecstatic when she was alone with Aquip. As she watched them jump and break the branches, trying to find the right one, she made her way back inside her home to collect the rest from the storeroom. The storeroom was a division of their kitchen, touching the outer walls of the living room, where they stocked all the ration and groceries. Her father constructed it right on the second day of his marriage on the request of his wife. She had heard a zillion times of how he had collected the wood and carpentered the whole structure by himself in the shed behind their house, an anecdote he narrated every time someone praised the concept. She found a coal easily. It was stashed in the same big sack as it was the day before. It was one of her chores to light the angiti and the fireplace every evening. One by one, she checked the white polythene bags for carrot, opening up every knot to see what lay inside. After she realized that it would lead to a mess, she went out to look for her mother, who was probably getting dressed for work. As soon as she stepped out of the storeroom, she saw her mother next to her father on the sofa. She caressed her hair as she gently sobbed. It was not the onions, she realized. Inayat took cover behind the door and tried to hear what they were talking about, but the radio was louder, clearer, and so she revealed herself into the picture, pretending that she had seen nothing as her mother wiped the light tears. Moji, I need some carrots, she screamed loudly, still standing at the door, waiting for her mother to reply. Come in, Wahida replied in a fumbling voice as she got to her feet. Inayat stood there, hearing her mother's footsteps. They seemed shallow as she partly dragged her feet. She repeated a quick words in a passive voice, and her mother's presented a generous smile, but Inayat could make out that it was a simulated smile. She approached the store and Inayat moved outside, putting her hands near the stove, embracing the warmth oozing out of the flames, the two pieces of coal resting safe in her pocket. She walked outside again, thinking about her mother and not her friends, to the side of a still incomplete snowman. Aquip and Gul were already there, scraping some snow off the head with a sharp stone. They finished the details and wrapped a scarf around its non-existent neck for the final touch. Gul and Inayat sat on the round deck beneath the skeletal chinar tree, while Aquip started swinging on the makeshift swing that hung from the solid branches of the quivering tree. It's definitely better than the one we built last year, Aquip finally agreed, holding on to the rope, his brown curls covering his temple. Obviously, its head fell off within a week. Gul laughed. It was the worst ever, Inayat added. While they talked, she noticed something peculiar about it. Even though her thoughts were still somewhere else, she realized that they had forgotten to put a smile on the snowman's face. Everything was there, the hands made out of twigs, the edible orange color nose from the carrot, the charcoal eyes, and even some clothes, except a smile that they usually made out of beads. We forgot the beads, Inayat said promptly as the three turned their gaze to its plump white face. The smile was missing. They had forgotten to light it up. That's really normal nowadays, no? Aqib snapped as he tossed his hair back with his hands. Inayat and Gul ignored what he had just said, but every word he said was so true. The people of the valley had forgotten to smile. People had forgotten what laughter sounded like, how a smile curved to light up one's face. Probably the reason they had forgotten to light up its face with a smile. The silence of the curfews, the pointy barbed wires, and barrels of the guns had replaced them. None of them even completed it. They kept staring at the snowman without a smile, waiting for someone to get up and finish it. In the end, it was Inayat who got up and slowly planted the smile on its face. She did it, even though she knew that there was no point wasting time on it. Putting up small colorful beads in a curve. Eventually, it will be the first one to fade away. She had the first-hand experience.
Thank you for tuning in. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the upcoming video.